And now I'm delighted to welcome a wonderful friend of Kinloss, Lisa Roukin. We love her cookery demonstrations. Today, Lisa is going to share with us two special BiShvat recipes, and these are her blueberry chia seed coconut loaf and her blueberry or other berry jam. Full details of both recipes are available from Lisa's website, myrelationshipwithfood.com, and her book, My Relationship with Food, is also available from the website. And if you order through February, Lisa is offering a really generous discount to Kinloss members. Just enter the coupon code KINLOSS with a capital K at checkout. Thank you very much. Lisa, over to you.
And thank you for joining us on this Zoom call. So today, as Jeremy says, first things first, I'm going to show you how to make a blueberry chia seed jam. And then I'm going to use the jam and make it into a coconut blueberry chia seed loaf. Now, just to let you know, if you don't want to make the jam, you can use your own jam. You can use a sugar-free jam. But I want to show you how quick and easy this is. So I've got frozen blueberries, which are more economical. So I'm putting in 400 grams in here. You'll get the recipe on myrelationshipwithfood.com. Into here, I'm going to add my maple syrup. Smells divine already. And then I'm going to add in some lemon juice. And I've got some water here. So I'm going to add that in. And I've also got here some vanilla bean paste, or you can use a whole vanilla pod and just scrape out the seeds. So that's going in. You can also use vanilla extract. And then what I next need to do is I'm going to actually move it over here. I'm going to put it on the stove. I'm going to bring it up to a boil. And as soon as it starts boiling, I'm going to pop the lid on and put it onto a simmer. And then I'm going to cook it for 20 to 25 minutes. And then I'm going to take it off the heat, let it cool. And then I'm going to add in my chia seeds here. So can you see that, Jeremy?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to add in my chia seeds, and that's what will kind of gel it together. So chia seeds are rich in fiber, omega-3, so it's a really good, healthy jam to make. So I'm just going to wait for this to come up to the boil, and then we can move over to the blueberry loaf, because I have got some. Here's one I've made earlier. So whilst I'm just waiting for that to come up to the boil, I'm just going to show you. It's already boiling, but can you see in there, Jeremy? So this is the consistency of how your jam will look. So it's very much like the real McCoy as in jam.
Right. That looks delicious.
Homemade and packed with lots of nutrients from the chia seeds. So already, just going to show you here, it's starting to come to the boil here. Can you see in there?
Yeah, I can.
Coming up. So popping it back on there for another second because I took it off.
That's coming to the boil very quickly.
Yes, that's induction for you. I love these two are induction and this one is electric. When my mum built this kitchen, I wanted her to have induction, but she was scared. So she kept one little slab here, electric, but these are far superior because they...
And you need to stir to stop anything boiling or burning?
A little stir, let's get a nice spoon. So you can use fresh blueberries, but as I said, it's more economical to use frozen. And I'm just going to pop the lid on now. And then at the moment it's on number 9, and I'm going to take it down to number 2. And what's also good about these hobs is it's got a timer on it. So I'm going to put it on for 25 minutes, but obviously if you don't have a timer on your stove, then use your mobile phone. So I've got 25 minutes on here, and then I'm just going to leave it. Okay, so I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm going to let it simmer, and it's got in there, you've got your lemon in there, you've got your water, you've got your vanilla, your maple syrup, and your blueberries. And then what you need to have is your chia seeds ready. So once it's cooked and cooled down, I'm going to stir in the chia seeds and then let it do its own thing. And then it all comes together into a lovely jam that we're going to use for this blueberry coconut loaf. So I'm going to leave that there. And then I'm going to move over swiftly. So I've got 4 eggs in here, which have been checked. And then I'm going to add in maple syrup. So a lot of these ingredients, apart from the eggs, are all plant-based and quite fruity. And even though coconut says coconut, it actually isn't a nut. So it's actually, we've got chia seeds. So this isn't actually a nut, but it's still a natural plant-based ingredient. I've got oil here, and I've got some more vanilla. So I'm using, again, vanilla bean paste. I've got baking powder, and I've got some Maldon sea salt, and I have got coconut flour. So not many of you have probably used coconut flour before, but the reason why I use it is the diet that I follow, which is a gluten-free diet, and sometimes I like to go grain-free. So if you use gluten-free flour, that will still be a flour in the form of a grain, but when you use coconut flour, it's grain-free, high in protein and high in fiber. So this cake or loaf is fortified with lots of goodness. So, and also just to let you know, you don't need much coconut flour because it absorbs a lot of moisture. So I'm only using 70 grams. So on average, most cakes, you probably need about 250 grams to 300 grams of flour. But because coconut flour absorbs a lot of moisture, you only need a little amount. So these are all the ingredients. And then I've got my chia seed blueberry jam, which I've shown you before. Here's one I made earlier. You need 200 grams of jam, but you need to separate 150 that goes into the cake and 50 grams that goes on top of the cake, which I will show you now. So I'm going to beat in a glass bowl with a fork the eggs. Have you got any questions, Jeremy?
So one of the things you mentioned before was maple syrup. I know totally out of order now, but some people are using maple syrup flavoring and some people use proper maple syrup. Is there a difference between the syrups and the flavorings?
Well, there's loads of different syrups and honeys that you can use. Just to say, in case somebody can't get maple syrup, you can use agave or you can use honey. I use pure Canadian maple syrup. So it's a natural source of maple syrup. So that's the one I would go for. But as I said, you can switch to honey or agave if you prefer.
Right.
So I've got my eggs beaten here, just so you can all see.
Yep.
And then I'm using oil, so you can use any oil that you like. You can use whatever you prefer. I'm using rapeseed oil, but you can use, if you don't like rapeseed oil or sunflower oil, you can use light in color olive oil. So it's not rich, it's light in color, but I'll leave it to you, whichever oils you decide. So in goes the oil. So also, again, I'm not using any butter, so it's a parent cake, so it's easy if you're having a meaty meal. Then I'm going to add in maple syrup. Splash came out there. So just make sure, as my grandma said, always scrape your bowls to get everything out. Don't leave anything in the bowl. So that's going in. And then I am going to use my vanilla bean paste. So that's going in. So you can make this with the kids because it's a really easy cake. You don't need an electric whisk. You just need to do it by hand. So it's kind of a safe cake to make. So I'm just going to beat that together.
So you talked about having it after a meaty meal, which is great because it's parve. What would you normally serve this after?
You can have it once you make it. I promise you, as my husband said. There's a little story behind this, and actually because you did officiate my grandma's online Zoom shiva, which was absolutely amazing. You were so special, and it was very special. But unfortunately, the day that I heard my grandma passed away was actually my husband and I, it was our anniversary. And she died on our anniversary, which is a significant day because we will always be celebrating the day that she passed. And my grandma, when I went through a few troubles in my life of being a teenager, not knowing what I wanted to do, she always was there for me. And she sat me down on my bed one day and she said to me, Lisa, what truly, truly makes you happy? And I said to her, the only thing that really makes me happy is when I'm cooking. So she said, that's what you must do. So the day that she passed, I was in such shock, but I actually went into the kitchen and locked myself in there and actually developed this recipe. So it's actually quite meaningful that we're doing this for BiShvat and I'm doing it with you. And yeah, it's so meaningful because this recipe was devised on her passing. And I felt like she was in the kitchen with me as her last sort of send off, even though I think of her all the time when I'm in the kitchen. But yeah, this cake was devised on her passing. So it's very special and unique.
A touching story.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful story. So I've got my liquid mixture here, all thoroughly blended together. It's nice and smooth. I've now got my coconut flour here. I've got my baking powder. So I'm just going to mix this in together. And I've got my salt. And I'm just going to give this a little mix just before I put it in, so it's all nicely combined with a spatula. Because that's what I've got to hand. But actually, it's good to also have a spatula to hand. And one thing actually I have to say, because I always forget, but don't forget to preheat your oven to 160 on the fan. So you could do that right now if you haven't done it already. But obviously, I have got my oven at the back preheated.
So it's 160 on the fan.
And I kind of usually cook it on the middle shelf. So
right.
Talking about baking, just before I forget, when you put the cake in, it takes 50 minutes to bake, but I put my timer on for 40 minutes, and then I get a piece of tin foil and I cover it for the last 10 minutes so it doesn't get too browned. Is that okay?
That's absolutely perfect and great advice. Why do people use the fan when baking cakes?
I just think it circulates the air better so you get an even bake, but if you prefer not to, you can put it on a setting without the fan. So here's my flour mixture with the salt and baking powder. So you can use a whisk or a fork, a handheld whisk. You don't need an electric whisk. So flour is going in. And then I'm just going to give that a mix. Sometimes I change the direction of my hands. So I go clockwise and then anti-clockwise. So it just moves the flour around a lot quicker. So instead of going the same direction, just turn it the other way, scrape the sides, and you can kind of beat it as you would eggs or scrambled eggs, because that's actually what it looks like at the moment. And then you'll suddenly feel the resistance because coconut flour actually absorbs the liquid mixture quite quickly. You'll start to feel a resistance on your arm. And you want it to be really nice and smooth. So I'm now going to move over to my spatula. I'm going to scrape off, because I feel like my grandma's watching me now, every little morsel on the fork.
There's nothing to lick if you do that.
Huh?
There's nothing to lick if you do that.
Well, I think the best cakes to lick have to be a cheesecake. So I'm really now kind of getting in there, making sure the mixture is nice and smooth. Really scrape around the edges, and you can use the spatula to actually break up any lumps of coconut flour. So you want it really smooth, but you don't want to overbeat it, okay? But just make sure that you haven't actually got too many lumps. So it does actually come together really quickly, but use the spatula to kind of push down any lumps you see. So it's entirely up to you whether you want to use a glass bowl, plastic bowl, or a metal bowl when cooking. I like to use a glass bowl when I'm demonstrating so you guys can see what it looks like. So at the moment, it looks like a Victoria sponge, nice and golden, and it smells divine. Got the vanilla coming through. And also the blueberries that are cooking away on the stove smell delicious as well. So I can't remember, I think you asked me, when can you eat this cake before?
Yeah, what does it go well with?
So when I made this cake, my husband said to me, that is the best cake you've ever made. And maybe I thought that's because it's connected to my grandma. And what Jamie, my husband, likes to say, it was off the charts. So I hope that you all have that same feeling when you eat this cake. So we're nearly there. So another thing that you need to do is you need to have a loaf tin, a 2-pound loaf tin, which I've got here. And you line it with a 2-pound loaf tin liner here, which you can buy in most shops, or if you're really stuck, you can order on our trusty site, Amazon. So 2-pound loaf tin, 2-pound loaf tin liner. If you can't get hold of a 2-pound loaf tin liner, you can use parchment paper. So just so you know. Okay, so my mixture is really nice and smooth. I'm a bit OCD and I like it to be completely lump-free. So just pushing out a bit more of that. We're nearly there. Keep scraping around the bowl and also make sure you get right to the bottom. So as you can see, it's a really quick, easy recipe to make. And it stays moist for 5 days, 6 days, if it stays that long, obviously, in the kitchen. Because if it is going to be off the charts, it won't be in the house for long. So there we go. We have got a nice smooth consistency here. Let's show you a bit more.
Right, so it no longer looks like scrambled eggs. It's a lot thicker than that now.
It now looks like a blancmange or a Victoria sponge mix. It smells amazing. Okay, so that's my mix. 2-pound loaf tin liner, which has been pre-lined. Now, here's one I've made earlier with my blueberry chia seed jam. Just to let you know that when you do go on my website to get the recipe for this, it is actually titled underneath raspberry chia seed jam. But in the ingredients, it does indicate, that you can use blueberries, blackberries, or strawberries. So it's entirely up to you. The choice is yours. But today we are using blueberries. And I keep it in this Kilner jar in the fridge. And just to let you know, while we're on the subject of the jam, you can top it on pancakes, waffles, ice cream, yogurt, and acai berry bowl. There's so much you can do with this jam. Obviously, you can bake it in a cake. You can just lick it off a spoon like I do. Because remember, it is packed with chia seeds, which are high in fiber, protein, and omega-3. And then you've got your natural antioxidants from the blueberries. So it's a really good all-rounder. Now, in the recipe, you need 200 grams of it. So I've measured out 150 grams, which is going to be mixed into the cake. And then I have got 50 grams, which is going on top of the cake. So I'm now going to show you what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to get another spoon. Now, I want you to, when you make this cake, to pop in the jam. So I'm going to bring it close a little bit. Pop in the jam here. And you want to really lightly fold it in. So don't go too fast, just fold it in because you want to see like a swirl in the cake. So just like a figure of 8, like that. So that's all you need to do, just gently fold it in. And then I've got the rest of it. If we weren't filming right now, I would say like, I'm just gonna do it.
That looks wonderful. So your website, myrelationshipwithfood.com, talks about the art of mindful eating. What's mindful eating?
So mindful eating, so with my husband, obviously when we met, he used to pile up his plate with all this delicious food that I would cook all the time. And, you know, often on a Shabbos, everyone would say, Jamie, do you need a bigger plate? So the art of mindful eating is just to be conscious of what you're eating. Conscious, yes, I think of food all the time because I'm a chef and I love food, but I also think about what I'm eating in a day. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, my snacks. It's just being really mindful, actually, what I've been actually doing for the last month, because I am watching an interesting course about food, is to write down what I'm eating. So that's also really interesting, and actually to be truthful when you're writing it down. So don't just write down what you want to declare and not write down what you've been eating and not wanting to declare. So be really truthful and honest with yourself. Mindful eating is about, being conscious about what you're eating. I don't count calories, but I'm also making sure that I've always got a good source of protein on my plate. Carbohydrates, it's there, but it's not a massive amount. And making sure that I've got lots of vegetables on my plate, salad. So it's a good, healthy balance is really what mindful eating does. And sometimes, also to appreciate where it's come from. So we're talking about BiShvat. We're thinking about the harvest, how it's grown, where it's come from, how it's got from A to B, how it's got from a seed to growing something, and then it's come to your kitchen, and then it's made into something. So it's also being appreciative of your food as well.
That's great.
So I'm now going to mix this again, fold it in slightly. So it's like a bit like a blueberry ripple cake at the moment. Okay, so you can still see, you don't want to like whisk it too fast, so it's just going to be dark. You want to see a bit of the coconut loaf. So I'm just going to pour this in neatly. Okay. So remember to hold back a little bit extra for the top. Okay. And a spatula is always good to use because you can really get everything out. And then just level it out. Okay. And then I'm going to get here, I'm going to bring it a bit closer so you can see there.
Right.
Yeah. So I've got more blueberry chia seed jam. So I'm going to get it, and then I'm just going to drag it along the top of the cake. You just have to be really gentle with this cake. It needs a lot of love. And maybe that's why when you taste it, you can actually feel the love. So just drag it down the cake. And then this just gives it a nice sort of topping. So there's another stage to this cake, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and that is a lemon glaze. So we're adding more fruits. And so this is a really fruity cake. So that's it really. Got my blueberry chia seed. You can pull it back a bit if you want, and just kind of be very chefy and pull it out a bit. So that's it. So as I said, this is going to go into your oven, preheated 160 on the fan. It cooks for 50 minutes, but I'm going to put my timer on for 40 minutes. And then I'm going to have a piece of foil, which I'm just going to cover over the top. And then that will stop it from going too brown after 40 minutes. So everyone's ovens work differently, but I do suggest you cover it up for 40 minutes. So in it goes. I'm just going to put the timer on so I don't forget. So 40 minutes. Okay, and then I've got my foil that I'm going to put on. Now, final stage is the lemon maple syrup glaze that goes onto the cake afterwards when it's come out the oven. I'm going to brush it with a pastry brush. So I've got lemon juice here going in.
How much lemon juice?
I think that's a whole lemon actually.
A whole lemon, right.
And then I've got, I think, 30 milliliters, I think I can remember, 30 milliliters of maple syrup. Again, you can use honey or agave. That's going in. And then because we have my trusted induction hob, it will come up to the boil quite quickly. Just to let you know, we've probably been going for about 20 minutes because I've only got 5 minutes left on the blueberries. So I'm going to show you this, show you the jam. I'm going to show you cutting a slice of the cake, and I'm going to brush it. This one actually has, here's one I've made earlier. I actually made this earlier, but I've already brushed it with the glaze, but I wanted to just show you how to make it, and I'll show you a little bit of what to do. So when you've got your glaze on the stove, you want to bring it up to kind of near enough a boil. And what we want to do now is to reduce it, to make it syrupy. So at the moment, can you see it's more loose? Can you see there?
Yep.
So it's loose at the moment, but what I want to do is reduce it down so it gets a bit more syrupy consistency. So when you take your cake out of the oven after 50 minutes, you bring it out and you let it cool for a bit, and then you literally just brush it over, and then that's it. Done. So we're going to wait for that to come up to the boil, and then I'll just show you a bit on here. And then my jam has still got a few more minutes, and then that's it. So easy and simple. So if you do make the jam, which is about 400 grams of blueberries, you're only obviously going to be using half of it. So then you've got the other half, as I mentioned before. You can put it on toast, you can put it on porridge, pancakes, waffles, whatever you want to do. And it does last in the fridge for a good week. So as you can see steam?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's starting to kind of boil up together. You do want to watch this, and sometimes you think, oh, maybe a little bit more, but just be careful you don't go too far because it will go too thick and syrupy. So as long as it has kind of a glossy kind of consistency, that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to brush it over here, but I have already done that on here, so I'm not going to go too heavy with it because I want to use it for the one that comes out of the oven, the afternoon tea.
We're looking forward to that. So just a reminder, all of your recipes are on your website, myrelationshipwithfood.com. And that's the same name as your book, My Relationship with Food. And that is available with a discount at the moment for anybody who logs in with the coupon and puts the coupon code KINLOS on it. So there's a very generous discount that Lisa is offering us on the book. The book's also available on Kindle, and all of the recipes on myrelationshipwithfood.com are gluten-free.
Yeah, and lots of my recipes are using no refined sugars, and I've actually got lots of updated recipes obviously on my website, as you've just said. There's loads of recipes on there. Also, just to let you know, if you do purchase the cookbook, I'm very happy to personally sign it to somebody. Quite often I do deliver them too, so you'll get a chance to meet me as well. And what else was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh yeah, I'm also on Instagram. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, because every day I give inspirational ideas at all meal times. So follow me on @myrelationshipwithfood. That'd be great. So I'm just going to pop that there. My glaze has become a little bit more reduced here.
Right.
You see it kind of disappeared. Okay, it's just there. Don't want to like pour it too much. Yeah, it's kind of reduced down a bit. So let's just imagine I've taken the cake out of the oven and I've left it to cool for about 5 minutes. So I actually put my I put my lemon drizzle topping on it when it's still hot, because what happens, it seeps into the cake.
Hot, but not straight out of the oven.
Yeah, so let it sit for like 5 minutes or so. And then literally just get your brush here. I'm not going to do all of it because I need that for the cake that comes out of the oven, but you just literally use the whole amount, and here you just give it a lovely little glaze.
Gently painting it on.
Yeah, and you can still do that while it's in its £2 loaf tonight. You can still do it while it's in the tin. So you want it to literally sit there and cool completely. But now, should we cut a slice?
Go on. I want to see this.
Jeremy, do you think one day they might like invent computers that you could actually like literally give somebody a slice? How cool would that be?
I'm imagining the blueberry and coconut aroma at the moment.
Yeah. So you still have that look. It's really soft. Can you see that?
Oh, that's really lovely. It looks really moist inside.
Yeah, it's so moist. It's so moist. It's really, some people like a dry cake, but this is a real blueberries ready.
Perfect.
That's why I always have timers on, because it's just amazing. You like, because you do forget. So everything with me gets timed, the oven, the stove, everything. But
I did talk before about using a timer on your phone. Surely there is a risk with that the call comes through, you're on the phone and you miss your timer.
no. When you're cooking, that goes on airplane mode. Turn phones off. You need a quiet,
This is mindful cooking.
cooking. Yeah, this is not about being disturbed, watching Instagram while you're cooking. This is about you having time in the kitchen to concentrate, put lots of love in it, because what you put in comes out. So as you can see here, it's very soft. I'm going to try some. I'm going to make it. It's so soft and delicious. I think I might have to drive over and give you some. If you're lucky. If you're lucky. I'll leave a little parcel on your doorstep. So that's it. So let me just move over to my jam. I'm going to keep for the one, my coating for the lemon, I'm going to keep for my cake that comes out the oven. I'll leave that there just so you can see. Blueberries here. Smells amazing. I'm just going to keep that over here. And then what you can do is just slightly mash down the blueberries so they're kind of squashed a bit. And then you wait for it to cool, but I'm just going to show you because this is a video. So let's imagine this is cooled. I've got my chia seeds.
You can just lift some up so we can see the consistency inside.
Can you see?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me when it's like coming out.
That's all right. Yep. Okay.
So you've got liquid in there, but you do need the liquid because what happens to chia seeds is the way that they interact is when they come into liquid, they sort of like go a little bit like tadpoles. So chia seed isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I promise you, don't tell anyone what's in it. That's my advice. Don't tell anyone. It's like if I tell anyone it's gluten-free, grain-free, yeast-free, dairy-free, they go, oh, not for me. But the best thing, even my grandma, to be honest, if I would tell her it was gluten-free and that free, she'd say, well, not my cup of tea. But actually, just from my experience, just make the cake, give it to them. If they enjoy it, then you can tell them it's free from this and that.
So Lisa is talking us through her recipe for blueberry chia seed coconut loaf, but doesn't want to tell anybody that it's got chia seed or coconut in it.
But on this instance, I'm going to tell you because we're here for BiShvat and we wanted to create recipes today showing you how to use fruit. You've got lemon, you've got blueberries, you've got your seeds, your chia seeds, you've got your coconut flour. So we've got lots of little bits from BiShvat all going together and making this deliciousness. Also, we've got our chia seeds here. So I'm going to add this in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add it into here. So that goes in. Give it a mixy. And then you can use the spoon just to push down the back of the blueberries. But I actually sometimes quite like, I don't know about you, Jeremy, but when you eat a jam, you quite like to see the fruit in there, like a bit of strawberry.
I do.
So don't mash them completely because it's quite nice to have that texture. But obviously you just don't want big balls everywhere. So kind of mash it slightly. And that's it. You just let that sit. And then after a while, the chia seeds will turn from being grey into a clear colour and it will just blend in literally with your jam here.
Right. And you keep that in the fridge?
Yeah. So I get these from IKEA, but you can buy them online. So like a Kilner style jar. I think it's the best way to keep jam, especially if you're sterilising the jars. And I personally don't like to keep jam in a Tupperware box. I like to keep it in a glass container, or some people like to recycle old jam pots. And so we are watching our recycling, and instead of throwing them in the recycling bin, you can actually take the label off and then put your own jam in the
So clearly it doesn't last long enough ever to go off because you eat it. But how long does a jam stay usable?
I'd say a week, but sometimes I find about 2 weeks. Yeah. too
Right,
easy.
because this is made without any preservatives.
Yeah, no preservatives. So you've got the lemon in there that will keep it stabilized, but it's 100%. It's got no pectin in it, so it's really good for you. So again, all of my recipes are mindfully balanced. I don't use any additives or preservatives. I like to keep it as natural as possible. And yeah, sometimes it's always gluten-free, but it can sometimes also be grain-free, like this cake. So anyone who has any intolerances, this is a perfect cake. And yes, when you say coconut, people are going to think it's a nut, but coconut isn't a nut. So this is a great cake for anyone. So a lot of people freak out when they've got someone coming over for Shabbos, or they want to make a cake for somebody that's a celiac or dairy intolerant or gluten intolerant. Well, this is your cake.
This is the cake for them. Right. And it goes well with tea or coffee, or a red wine, or what do you suggest?
Tea or coffee is sometimes even nice for breakfast, because you've got all, yeah, I'd have it for breakfast. You can actually, for more decadence, you can actually, which I do, and you'll see on the photo on the recipe, is to put some more jam on top of it. So shall I show you?
Yeah, go on.
Right. So just pushing the cake back. I'm going to use the piece that I've already bit into. So yeah, if you're wondering what you can use the jam for, breakfast, you can literally top it on your cake for extra decadence.
Oh, so that does look just like the recipe on your website. Yeah. You've got a couple of blueberries on the picture as well. Do you take your food photos?
I take everything.
They are sensational and beautiful in the book as well.
Yeah, those I didn't do.
No, those you didn't do. Any tips on taking food photos?
You need natural daylight. You need to be by a window, so to get that lighting. Don't put loads of lights on, because you'll get these spotlights, for example, on your plate. You don't want to see a spotlight. I have a lovely wooden board that I always take my photos on, so something clean and fresh. Yeah, and I love taking photos, and I actually take all my photos on my iPhone. So I always take in portrait mode. Top tip.
Portrait mode, right? Because lots of people enjoy uploading their culinary creations, and you know, it's always nice to know how to show them to their best.
Yeah. And also, my husband always says to me, "Why do you always take photos when you can't see the whole thing? You only kind of like zoom in." It's entirely up to you. Some people like close up or further away. Sometimes further away, and then you can cut it and edit it and move in, but probably I would say take it further away so you get the whole look, and then you can cut it and edit. So that's a top tip. Yeah, and natural lighting is good. Yeah.
Great.
So any other questions about food, or?
I think that's absolutely lovely, and thank you for sharing with us a perfect tu BiShvat recipe.
Can I just say that?
Go on, yeah.
The Kinloss followers do make this loaf, I would love to see it. So you can either email me at lisa@myrelationshipwithfood.com, or if you're on Instagram, you can tag me in at myrelationshipwithfood, and also you can use the hashtag myrelationshipwithfood. I really do love seeing people's creations, because it really warms my heart, because obviously I put so much love into my recipes, and I want to connect with you guys because you've gone out your way to make this, and I would love to see it. So don't forget to send it to me.
So thank you very much for that, and for sharing so much with enthusiasm and love in your culinary creation. And please do log into myrelationshipwithfood.com to get this recipe and many more. And of course, also to order Lisa's book, My Relationship with Food. And you can use the coupon code KINLOSS with a capital K in order to get a very generous discount that Lisa has set up for us, which is running. We're now at the tail end of January, running through February. So thank you very much indeed, Lisa. And I wish you a happy and a healthy new year, and every blessing also in your grandmother's memory. And thanks for her inspiration in this recipe.